Hey there, Todd. How are you doing?
Hey, James, I'm good. How are you? Good to see
Good.
you.
Well, again, congratulations on the film. I got to see it at South by Southwest, and it's exciting that it's going to be shared with the rest of the country now, being released on Friday.
I know starting to get nervous, but it's all good.
Now, the character of Mr. Pat is based on a real life figure, someone who you knew in the town where you grew up in Ohio. And I just wondered if you could tell us a bit about when you first encountered this man and what impression it had on you as a young gay man growing up yourself in a small town.
Yeah. I remember him from maybe the time I was like 8 or 10 years old, like I lived close to downtown and would ride my bike down there, and I would occasionally spot this like, almost like space alien kind of creature, walking around who looked completely different than everybody, and Sandusky back then was pretty conservative, so and I always felt like a bit of an alien myself, so I was really drawn to this guy. And I found out that he was a hairdresser and that he had the shop on the corner, right in the center of downtown. And so, he was very flamboyant, but he was like quietly flamboyant, And but he would have like the fedora hat and rings on every finger, and smoke, this long. He drove like he was a really tiny guy, and he drove like this gigantic canary yellow Cadillac or Lincoln, convertible. And so later, I when I turned about 17, I kind of snuck into our gay bar, which is the Fruit and Nut Company. And the first time I was petrified, to go there by myself for the first time. But I walked in and I saw something sparkling, and I looked over, and there was this man that I had seen from the time that I was a little kid. And I was like, wow, that's me, like that I'm home, So he really, I'm very much like a character, I'm sort of speaking through one of the characters in the film that Michael Urie plays, which is I never really, I moved away not long after, to go to college, but so I never really knew Pat very much personally, but he did have like a profound impact on my life, just from having the courage to be openly queer in a small conservative town in the 1960s and 70s, because he's a trailblazer. So I really tried to pay homage to him with the film. That's pretty much what it's about.
Yeah. And because he was originally going to appear kind of as character in your film Edge of 17.
Yeah, exactly. 20
now,
years. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose even better, he gets his own film, and because it's
yeah.
um, and it's very rare, I think. Well, it's quite rare generally that we get older characters of this age being the center of any film, regardless of whether they're queer or not. But particularly getting a queer, older person that's living in a retirement home. So, it's fascinating from that point of view. But what made you think of Udo Kier to play Mr. Pat, and what was kind of his reaction when you managed to get the script to him?
I didn't think of him originally. It was the idea of one of my casting directors, Lena, and we one of the reasons why we weren't able to like have the character be an Edge of 17 is because we literally could not find an actor that was suitable to play the part, and before I met Udo, we were casting for like a year, more than a year. We had some, nice A-list actors interested, and it kind of came and went. But as time went on, I really felt like I want to cast a queer actor to play this queer part. And Lena had mentioned Udo, who she had just hung out with at Berlin Film Festival, and I was like, Udo Kier, wait a minute, he's German and he's got this accent, and the real Mr. Pat was from West Virginia, and so it took me a second to wrap my head around it, but then I kind of rewound back in my mind to like, Andy Warhol's Dracula and Udo in My Own Private Idaho, which is like probably my favorite queer film of all time, and I was just like, and then the real Mr. Pat had these giant like blue eyes that were really magnetic, and so It's like, whoa, that's kind of brilliant, you know? And but it did take like a little bit of like courage to kind of cast Udo, like for all of us to kind of cast like off his normal type, which is usually like playing, you know, bad guys and stuff. And but I flew out. We got him the script. He really loved the script. He called me right away, responded to it, and I hopped on a plane to Palm Springs where he lives. And I think as soon as like he opened the door, you know, like I knew he was Pat, you know, and we formed a friendship, and we kind of met like a year before we ended up shooting. So by the time we shot the film, Udo and I we were like family already, you know. So and we still are. I mean, we talk almost every day, and I just feel really proud of like giving him a moment, the opportunity to show the full range of what he can do, you know. Because I think sometimes people stereotype people, maybe based on the accent or the German or whatever. But I do think in casting, especially these days, we need to think more outside the box. And wow, I mean, at this point, I can't imagine anyone else, you know, playing the part. Who else could do like he did?
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful marriage of role and actor to the point where you can't imagine anyone else doing it. And it obviously spoke to him pretty deeply too, I imagine, just judging from the performance. And given the character's age, something that you do in the film as he's kind of reflecting back over his life is that there are contrasts that kind of emerge between queer life sort of back then, the earlier part of his lifetime, and now. And I just wondered why that was something that you wanted to explore with the film.
Because I see gay life disappearing in so many areas, especially not just in small towns, but in big cities too. You know, we had, you know, when I came out, we had the Universal Fruit Nut Company, which is like we had to. That's the only place we could go to be ourselves. You know, I couldn't hold my boyfriend's hand or kid. I mean, we would have gotten, you know, killed back in the day. So to me, like that, those types of safe spaces like saved my life, I feel like. But now in my hometown, even, it's completely changed. There's gay pride flags flying all over town, not just during Pride. I mean, it's like really transformed, and you can be yourself now openly. And I guess that, you know, it's meant for like younger generations and stuff, that they don't have the same need to find their fruit and nut, you know, company when, as Eunice says in the film, who needs a fruit and nut when they can hold hands at Applebee's, you know? Not that you'd want to go to Applebee's, but anyway, but you know what I mean. And so it just, and it, also with technology, with apps and stuff, like, you know, that's where we needed to go to meet each other, and now, you know, that's changed. So I wanted to try to, you know, create that dialogue that these places are disappearing. And in a way, it's amazing because, you know, it's more accepted to be queer in society. But on the other hand, there's the loss of this world of tight-knit, you know, friends, of, you know, the secret world almost, you know, underground, even in small towns, that was a beautiful world because it was such a family, you know. And that's not like that anymore. It's just not. Even in, you know, my hometown still has a kind of a queer bar. It's just not the same, and it's not the same family. So, you know, it's bittersweet.
And I know we spoke in the past about your experience of making Edge of 17, where going back to your hometown was pretty distressing in some ways because it was such an autobiographical movie. And I just wondered what your experience was like this time, which you've sort of touched on with it being such a different place that maybe impacted you.
I mean, when we arrived there to start pre-production, literally in the middle of the 3rd annual Gay Pride Festival, which like almost like blew my mind. You know, it's almost like it advanced so far that I couldn't even keep up with it myself. Like, but it could not have, in 20 years that passed, it's like the attitude about, you know, amongst the general public about being Queer completely transformed, you know. In Edge of 17, we felt that we needed to keep it a secret that it was like a gay film or had gay subject matter. And this time around, people couldn't have been more excited about the content, and people also knew Pat, and they remembered him, and you know, like their grandmother, their mother went to him, and so you know, the community really wrapped their arms around us and let us stay in spare bedrooms and gave us, you know, that's we didn't pay money for hotels. We were all sleeping in people's like spare bedrooms, including Udo and myself. I mean, you know, it was a pretty low budget movie, you know, so we were trying to put all the money, you know, on the screen. And so my hometown really, it was like the completely opposite experience. It's like my hometown really like wrapped their arms around me and all of us, and there's no way we could have done it without their help. I mean, you know, the guy that runs the funeral home I played Little League with, and he's like, what coffin do you want? Take it wherever you want. Take, you know, we wound up with this like copper, you know, his highest end coffin for Linda Evans. And he's like, take the stand, take the lights, you know, just bring it back when you want. And, you know, it was like that. Everybody was like that. So it was kind of like a dream, you know, like going back. It's like you can go home again, you know, and it was amazing. Yeah, it was one of the best experiences of my life, and completely opposite to the Edge of 17 experience.
Good. Well, I'm glad that's happened and you've had that experience. Well, you mentioned Linda Evans, and I'd have to ask you about her briefly, just because it's great to see her in the movie. And yeah, how did that happen?
Eve and I, my casting director that I've worked with for like more than 20 years, like we're just brainstorming, you know, who's got like the gravitas to kind of like, it's a small part, but it's like the whole movie kind of revolves around her character. So we were just brainstorming, and we were like, kind of almost like at the same time, we're like, what about Linda Evans? And it was like, oh my God. And so Eve reached out to her her manager, Laura, and within days, Linda had read the script, and she just loved the script. It really really spoke to her. And she came out of retirement to do the movie, and hadn't done anything in like 20 years. And she didn't do it for the money. Obviously, she didn't need the money, but it was really very kind of her to do that. And I think she really adds like a wonderful ingredient to the film, and helps like bring it to the next level. You know, she's really amazing. And you know, I originally forgotten the whole thing with Dynasty and Rock Hudson, and how I don't know if people remember that, like right when it came out that Rock Hudson had AIDS, the Dynasty episode where Linda Evans, you know, kissed him came out, and everybody was like, oh my God, you know, can you get AIDS from kissing? And you know, and it was this like big deal that I think it was on the cover of People magazine and everything. And Linda, even back then, was an incredible like educator, and so I don't know, there's something about this topic that like is close to her. And it was a dream to work with her, and Udo loved her. They just adored each other. So,
and let's just touch on the music choices, because that was another element that I really enjoyed in the film. Because you know, it opens, there's Judy Garland, but then later on we get Robin. So a little bit like in the way that you're touching on sort of the old and new, and in terms of queer culture, we get that in the music too.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the songs were just songs that Mr. Pat loved, you know, like This Is My Life by Shirley Bassey was kind of his theme song. And he loved Judy Garland and Dusty Springfield. And, you know, so I've just tried to, I've had like this playlist. It started off as like a mixtape, you know, these songs from when I made Edge of 17, you know, my Mr. Pat songs. And, so these songs have been in my mind for 20 years. And I just can't believe that we literally got the rights to every single song that we wanted. I mean, I felt like Pat was like out there, Pat and David and all the queens from my hometown that were lost over the years, like were like up there, like kind of, you know, pulling the strings and getting the songs cleared for us. But that was another thing. I mean, it's one of those films that it just doesn't always work this way, but it was one of those films that everything just kind of worked out, you know, like during the production and stuff. Like it all like fell into place and it was natural. And I love when that happens, you know. Like I really felt like, not to sound corny, but you know, I was making a film about all these people that had passed away, and that I was almost like rousing the spirits of the dead. And I felt like they were on my side. Like I just felt them during it.
So one last question for you, and kind of a big one. What's your favorite piece of LGBTQ plus culture? So that could be a film or a book or a TV series, a play, a musical, artwork, or a person if you want to center on a person.
Okay. I mean, for some reason, Jimmy Somerville just popped into my mind, you know, Bronski Beat. And that was like a huge thing for me when I was coming out. And I was fascinated with reading, you know, here's this big pink triangle on the cover. And, you know, Boy George, you know, is another one. I mean, I'm an 80s child. So like people that had kind of like Mr. Pat in a different way, who had the courage to be queer and were huge influences on me. With films, I love the film Morris, like Merchant Ivory film. That's one of my favorite queer films. And My Own Private Idaho. Parting Glances is another favorite. You know, yeah, films from back in the day that you know, helped give me inspiration and courage to like tell my own stories, you know. Yeah, music is a big one. Sylvester, you know, all of that stuff. So yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going off to listen to some Sylvester now, as you mentioned him. Congratulations again on the film, Todd Stephens, Swan Song, out in theaters Friday, 6th of August.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Great to see you.
Great to see you again.
Yeah, see you soon.